and welcome to the Shadow Gallery. Once again, I'm your host, James Donnelly, and tonight we're going to talk about, today's comic releases. And we're also going to talk a little bit about some superhero movie news. That is, it's kind of old news by now, but it's going to be where we open up today. And that is, of course, the big announcement that relative unknown Henry Cahill has been cast as Superman slash Clark Kent slash Kal-El, whichever name you prefer to use for him. The controversy that surrounds the casting of Henry Cahill, of course, him being British, has been an obstacle that people have really had a problem getting past. And I can see, quite honestly, where they're coming from. Obviously, Batman he's a pretty, he's, kind of the American ideal. He just, he decks himself out in the red, white, and blue. Sort of. There's really no white on his costume. So, red and blue. But those are colors of Britain as well. But, obviously he's not going to play it British. But yeah, so we've got British Batman, British Spider-Man now, Australian Wolverine, and a British Superman. So how that's going to go, I don't know. If I had more faith in Zack Snyder as a director, I would probably say, well, he's probably a good shot. Thinking that the other people that are involved in this, obviously, Chris Nolan having some involvement, is a cause for some, credulity, I guess. Some creditability, if that's even a word. It gives it, it gives it an air of, forget it. I'm not even going to bother searching for the word. I actually have an episode of The Tudors on BBC America right now, trying to actually look for him. And ironically, he was also this report was on Colbert tonight, where he talked about the new Superman being British. To me, I'm not worried about the actor. I'm worried about the script. I'm worried about what they plan to do with the character, and I'm worried about Zack Snyder. Because if it's shot in that hyper stylized, super, it's full speed and then slow mo, full speed again. If that's done over and over and over and over and over again, that's going to get really fucking old. And that's part of what's, I think, has been kind of the problem that he's had. Well, he's only done, three movies that we've seen, two movies of which have been based on comic books. The third that's coming out soon, Sucker Punch, is really going to be his defining film, because it's the only really original piece of work that he's worked on. Dawn of the Dead was a remake, 300 was a comic book, Watchmen was a comic book. Sucker Punch is going to be his first really original, idea that he's worked on. I have no idea who wrote Sucker Punch, who's behind it, other than Zach being the director. Obviously, visually, I'm sure it'll be very stunning. The trailers are fantastic for Sucker Punch. The story is really where it's got to come. The story and the character is really where it's got to come together. Superman Returns the more that I've seen it, the more I realize how kind of a mess that film is. Um, it's uh, it has moments of real depth, but it's really just kind of a remake of of the first film, and that's where I think it kind of goes wrong. I mean, Lex Luthor trying to get real estate again. It's rather the way in which he does it is novel, certainly, but and the whole kind of bastard son of Superman thing. I mean, that's something that's really grated on the fan base. Um, but and so I mean, it's going to come down, like I said, to the story and to the characters and how they play them. Lois Lane. Who's going to be Lois Lane? The most recent shop talk has been Jessica Biel. I think that would be awful. Okay. There are two Jessicas that are currently working in Hollywood that get a lot more credit than they should ever have deserved. And that's Jessica Biel and Jessica Alba. I don't think either of them should be in anything ever again. So I'm hoping that somebody comes to their senses sooner or later and says, well, forget Jessica Biel. This is just not the direction that we would ever want to go with a character. Yeah, they're both sort of attractive, whatever. But are they good? No, they're not good. Unfortunately, they're very bad. Although I'll give more credit to Jessica Biel than I ever would to Jessica Alba. But anyway, so yeah, I mean that's really that. I mean I don't have a problem with Henry Cavill being Superman. I mean he looks, he kind of looks the part. As far as having a very chiseled face and so on and so forth. I'm sure he's buff. Again, I've yet to spot him on this show, but whatever. I'm sure it was. I'm sure the execs at Warner Brothers kind of know what they're doing. Obviously, I think it's been a disappointment to some people that Brandon Routh wasn't approached again to reprise Superman. But again, it's all dependent upon the direction in which they choose to go. And personally, I think they could. Yeah, I think they could overhaul. He was the only thing that I would bring back from Superman Returns. Kevin Spacey, as much as I love him, kind of phoned that one in. And Kate Bosworth was just a mess. It's hard to really take someone seriously when they're playing like a 30-ish mother and they still look like they're in their late teens. So whatever, we'll see how it all turns out. Of course, the other big news, at least of this week, that's going to be coming later this week, is we're going to get our first glimpse at Captain America during the Super Bowl, which would be the only reason that I would ever want to watch that game. Even if the Bears had won, if the Bears had won, I'd be watching it. But since they didn't, I doubt that I'll tune in. And I'm sure the trailer will be on Apple, will be on iTunes or what have you later on that day. So whatever. I like some of the stories that I'm hearing about the character of Bucky. That he's a little bit darker than what we might be used to thinking of him as. That they're kind of going the Brubaker route, as that he was more an advanced scout and he got to do a lot. He did a lot of the things that Captain America wouldn't be seen doing. He was a killer. I mean, not a bloodthirsty killer, but I mean he killed people. He slit some enemy throats and shot some enemy bad guys. So I mean, this is not something that Captain America did. So that's kind of cool too. So we're going to be back in just a moment to go over this week's comics. So stay tuned.